The shocking news that former NCT member Taeil was involved in a serious criminal case with a foreign woman rocked fans in 2024. As the months passed with no updates, the story faded into uncertainty, leaving many wondering what was really going on. With a trial date on the horizon, Taeil's recent outings have caught people's attention, so let's take a closer look at where he's been lately. SM Entertainment released the shocking statement on August 28th, saying it had only recently learned that Taeil is under police investigation for a serious SA-related offense. After what it called a thorough but swiftly decisive review, SM came to an agreement with Taeil that he would withdraw from NCT. SM promised further updates and apologized to the public for the distress the case has caused. The news and SM's decision to kick him out of the group so quickly left everyone stunned, since the company isn't exactly known to kick out artists from their groups after scandals. However, the reactions from the company and his fellow NCT members led the public to believe that the situation was even more serious than initially thought. Within hours, the official accounts for NCT and NCT 127, as well as the members' personal accounts, all unfollowed him, with Taehyung even going as far as to delete all of the pictures they had together from his Instagram. Witnessing this, many were convinced that the crime that Taeil committed must have been especially heinous. The scandal also affected the schedules of the other members. Jaehyun's solo fan sign set for August 29th was pushed back, as were Mark and Haechan's fan call events. The Dear You Bubble platform also terminated Taeil's account, while NCT Zone announced that they would delete his in-game content and exclude him from future updates. Additionally, fan accounts dedicated to Taeil shut down in an instant. People went as far as to rip up their photo cards and even burn them, and Taeil's follower count crashed by more than 1 million in a single afternoon. Bongbei police later told KBS that they received a complaint in June from an adult woman, shutting down the rumors that the victim was a man and/or a minor, and formally booked Taeil. They refused to provide further details to protect the victim's identity. SM later issued a follow-up statement denying any prior knowledge of the accusations, claiming both the agency and Taeil were first made aware of the allegations in mid-August. They also confirmed that Taeil was questioned by the police on August 28th, the same day his departure was announced. Theories and speculation were swirling like crazy, but the only hard fact up to that point was that authorities and his own label are treating the allegation as gravely serious. On September 13th, the Seoul Bongbei police confirmed that Taeil's case had been passed to prosecution, though he wasn't detained. However, at this point, the exact details of the crime were still unclear. It wasn't until October 7th that the full story came out. Taeil was accused of assaulting a drunk woman in June alongside 2 non-celebrity associates. The victim had filed the report with the police on June 13th. The charges were for aggravated quasi, which involves assaulting someone who is incapacitated, often with others involved or while using force. Once the filing date became public, fans realized the crime likely took place during Taeil's own birthday outing with the 2 men charged alongside him, a detail that made the story even more revolting and disturbing. Adding to the outrage, Taeil went live just 1 day after the incident. He showed up barefaced, chatted casually about his fresh haircut, and even hummed along to a few songs, acting as if nothing had happened the night before. Then, 2 months after the accusation, Taeil was summoned for questioning. The news shocked many who knew the case was serious but hadn't realized the full extent. SM also kept quiet on the matter, which angered a lot of people since they weren't exactly sure about Taeil's position within the company. While he was no longer part of NCT, he was still under the agency's roster, leading to confusion. Would SM keep him until his contract ended, or would they wait for the verdict before deciding whether to let him go or bring him back if found innocent? The answer came on October 16th when SM issued a statement announcing that they had officially terminated his contract. They explained that the ongoing investigation alone was enough to justify the decision, stating that the situation had eroded their trust in him as an artist. Ultimately, the termination was made in mutual agreement. After the contract termination, the unfollows, and the removal of photos, many assumed that SM and their artists would never mention Taeil again, and for the most part, they were right. In fact, the only mention of him came completely by accident. During a live stream in February, Jeno discussed It's Awkward But It's Okay, a variety show that pairs NCT members who don't interact very often in awkward one-on-one situations. While talking about how fans wanted him to take a photo with Jisung for the show, Jeno ended up reflecting on his past appearances from 2020. Unfortunately, he was paired with Taeil during that season. Realizing this midway through his thoughts, he seemed taken aback and caught off guard. He quickly covered up his mouth before he rephrased his sentence to Taeil and I, oops, the member whom I took the AWSAZ picture with. I don't know if I could say that we became closer friends just because we posed for that picture picture together. Let's move on. The situation sparked mixed reactions. Some fans felt sympathy for Jeno, understanding that it must have been tough on him and the other members. They had been in the same group for years, and despite the gravity of the situation, it wasn't easy for them to erase their history with Taeil. On the other hand, some speculated that SM had likely given strict instructions to avoid mentioning him altogether, which would also be understandable. The next update regarding the situation came on March 4th, when the Seoul Central District prosecutors officially indicted Taeil and 2 others on quasi charges. However, when it was revealed that the charges were special quasi many speculated it involved a weapon. However, it was revealed that the charge refers to cases where multiple people are involved or the victim is incapacitated, not necessarily involving a weapon. Although investigators sought arrest warrants for the 3 men, the court rejected them, citing the suspects' admissions to the crime as the reason why they felt detention wasn't necessary. It wasn't until 2 months later, in August, that Taeil was called in for questioning. It was also revealed that by September, the case was handed over to prosecutors. Taeil has apparently maintained that the crime wasn't premeditated, but his refusal to appear when summoned raised eyebrows. He claimed health issues as the reason for his absence, supported by a doctor's note and a statement from his lawyer. This sparked anger among netizens, both in Korea and internationally, who were outraged by the court's decision to deny the arrest warrants despite his confession. Many felt Taeil should have been detained, especially after admitting to the crime. One commenter said, "I don't understand the logic that if someone admits to a crime, then they should be allowed to be free until trial. The crime is too serious to just trust they're not a danger to society." Many also doubted his health excuse for skipping the summons. Critics noted he had carried out his crime while still on crutches from a motorcycle crash and even made it to a fan event in August, the same month he was questioned by the police. If he could manage those appearances, they argued, he could have faced investigators too. Finally, a date everyone had been waiting for dropped on April 19th. Korean media revealed that Seoul Central District Court's 26th Criminal Division had set in May 12th for Taeil's first hearing, along with his 2 buddies. The news set off a wave of chatter. Some people complained that the case was still inching along, only to be met with reminders that court calendars move pretty slowly, so this was quick by those standards. Others were already bracing themselves, convinced he'd walk away with a slap on the wrist sentence of a few months, maybe a couple of years, which felt nowhere near enough considering the nature of the crime he committed. A Reddit user predicted, given Korea's track record, he'll be sentenced to 3 years in prison, but will be out in 1.5 years because of good behavior. Some commenters even joked that if someone slipped illegal substances into Taeil's pocket, the courts might finally get serious and tack on extra years. However, with the trial date locked in, most people expected him to keep a low profile and at least pretend to feel remorse. Instead, on April 21st, a Twitter user posted 2 photos of a man believed to be Taeil having dinner and drinks with a male and a female companion. The tweet read, "I saw Moon Taeil previously. Seems like he's going around drinking with his first trial impending," and claimed one friend begged them not to take any pictures because Taeil was having a tough time. The post was deleted soon after, but screenshots of it spread like wildfire and outrage followed from all sides. A Twitter user said, "Not only should he be behind bars, but never have contact with a woman ever again. This is sickening." Others mocked the idea that Taeil was the one suffering, pointing out the real victim was likely still dealing with trauma while he enjoyed a night out. People were especially stunned that a woman chose to socialize with him, fully aware of what he'd been accused of. One netizen commented, "Why would anyone want to stay close to a offender? If it were me, I'd be creeped out and cut ties immediately." Some speculated the woman was his sister, though that remains unconfirmed. Others argued that because Taeil was never one of NCT's most popular members, he probably thought no one would notice him drinking while such grave charges and even a trial date loomed over him. Now that the first hearing is locked in, all eyes are on the courtroom as people want this case wrapped up swiftly and the victim to receive the justice that has been too long in coming.